What's up, everybody? Good afternoon once again. Wasn't thinking I was going to be making another video today, and if I was, it was going to be later tonight about the training camp stuff from today, but nobody told the Seahawks don't make any moves today, and they've made a pretty big one. So this is breaking news. Came down just a few minutes ago as of the recording of this video. The Seattle Seahawks have extended one of the pieces on their defense that they clearly consider to be an important part of their future. Julian Love, safety slash, I guess you could say nickel cornerback because he does that a little bit. Julian Love and the Seahawks have reached an agreement on a 3-year extension worth up to $36 million. This is from Adam Schefter. So we need to see the contract details before we say too much. This says up to $36 million, but that could mean a lot of different things. Are there incentives? Are there escalators? What are the incentives or escalators if they exist? What is the guaranteed money? What's the current year cap hit? That might be the most interesting one because Love's cap hit was pretty significant this year. It was a little over 8 million, I believe. Now it's probably going to go down by a non-trivial amount. It's probably going to go down at least a few $1,000,000, and that's going to clear the way for maybe another expenditure as we get started on training camp. A couple people have pointed out, I think it was Nemhauser who initially pointed this out, but a few people have pointed out that Julian Love shares an agent with Connor Williams. So there may be a connection where Julian Love gets extended, and because of the money that gets freed up from that extension, we can go sign Connor Williams. That's at least a possibility. I do feel like this was done to free up money to go do something. I don't know if it's Connor Williams, but I feel like this would only happen if you wanted to go and spend money on something now. Because while it's entirely possible that you're trying to get out in front of the extension before it gets even bigger next year, it's looks like it's going to be a fairly significant contract. That's up to $12 million a year on this extension. I'm assuming it gets attached to the money that he was going to make in 2024 on the previous contract. So it's not going to be exactly 12 million per, but the extension itself looks like it's going to be about that. Again, I'll make another video when we get contract details and we can say for sure what the extension really means, but I don't think you're doing this just because you're trying to protect against him costing 16 million next year. So I don't see that. But Julian Love, I mean, he was a pretty good player for us last year. There were problems, don't get me wrong. There were problems, but they were problems that kind of permeated the entire defensive roster and philosophy. And I don't know what they necessarily had to say about Julian Love. Like, you look at Julian Love as a player, he had a good career in New York under Wink Martindale. Now he's going to be coached by a Wink Martindale understudy of sorts in Mike Macdonald. So he's probably looking at a player like Julian Love and saying, hey, that versatility that Julian Love brings is something that I want on my new defense here in Seattle. So if I had to guess, I would say that that connection, that Wink Martindale connection, is making Mike Macdonald want to make sure this guy sticks around for the long term. And he was only 25 last year, so he's going to be 26 this year. It makes sense why you would want to lock him up if you look at him that way. This is not a 30-year-old player that you're giving an extension to who you're going to immediately regret. Last year, he had a lot of tackles, 123, almost a career high for him. He made the Pro Bowl. Now, I think the main reason why he made the Pro Bowl is, number one, he had a high tackle count. Number two, his best game of the year came on national television against the Eagles, and that's when he had 2 of his 4 interceptions, and he played really well in that game, so he got a Pro Bowl nod for it. But at the same time, one of the big reasons why his tackle count was so high is because our defense was really bad. And you had a lot of plays end up deep in the secondary where a guy like Julian Love would make the play. He'd be making the tackle, but he'd be making the tackle 8, 10, 12 yards down the field. So I look at that and I go, yeah, it's nice, but is it really something that I think deserves a Pro Bowl nod? I don't know. Now, the hang up I had on Julian Love, the thing that we're going to find out about a little bit more this year is Numerically, statistically, he got beat up in coverage last year. PFR said that he was responsible for over 600 yards allowed in coverage, 606, which I'm pretty sure was right near the league lead. It may have even been the league lead. It almost certainly was for a safety. Now, I know that's a little bit misleading because he plays safety and nickel corner, but he gave up a ton in coverage last year. His QB rating allowed was thankfully low because of the interceptions, but on a snap-to-snap basis, Julian Love gave up a lot. Now, that could be circumstantial. I'm totally open to that possibility. We might be sitting here at the end of the year and we're thinking to ourselves, you know what? Julian Love's really good in coverage, and he was more or less fine at his previous 4 seasons with the Giants. You didn't see massive coverage liabilities the way that we saw at points during 2023. And a better pass rush, a better scheme, and better teammates around him may end up helping. We'll see. I do think he's talented. I'm not against this. Right now, the contract does seem a little bit heavy, I will admit, but that's because we don't know exactly how the contract works out. It's worth up to $36 million. It could be like Geno's. Geno's was worth up to $35 million per year, but the actual contract was only $25 million per year unless he played extremely well. We'll see if maybe Love has something similar. By the way, for those of you who do like PFF, he was graded out pretty well last year. Coverage grade was actually really good by PFF last year, which is certainly interesting given how much he allowed in coverage. In fact, they had him in the top 5 for receptions allowed in coverage last year. So they're seeing something that they like despite the nominal problems here. So there is some stuff that I hope gets a little bit better with him, but he's not in his prime yet. He turned 26 during the offseason. He was 25 last year. He might come back in and be a better player. So I'm not against this at all. And again, if it frees up money and allows us to go sign, say, Connor Williams, then I think that's great. I think that's awesome. And I'll rock with it. And I know that there's going to be a little bit of a sentiment out there that we're repeating our old mistakes because we're giving a bunch of money to a safety. But scaling matters. Scaling matters. And giving a player like Quandre Diggs $13 million a year 2 years ago is much bigger than giving Julian Love $12 million a year now, because the cap keeps going up. The cap goes up massively, and you're seeing the contracts that these top-level players sign. We're seeing right guards sign contracts of $20 million a year. A couple years ago, that would have been absurd. Now it's becoming normal. The big safety contracts that you see in the NFL will keep going up and up and up, and odds are good that by this time next year, this Julian Love contract doesn't look like anything at all because some other safety, I don't know exactly who, maybe it'll be Winfield Jr. if he doesn't sign it this year, is going to sign some contract that's so big, it's going to make this contract seem totally normal. And obviously, Winfield Jr. is probably the best safety in the league, so I'm not saying there's an equivalency there, but I mean, the big picture here is that wait on the contract details before you judge anything. Right now, you're saying, oh, $12 million a year. I don't like that. But the actual contract might come out and it might be like, oh, it's actually $10 million a year with some incentives that are really hard to reach. Or maybe it'll be a deal that is very easy to get out from under after 2 years and there's very little dead money, so the contract becomes more like a $10 million a year contract. But yeah, Julian Love locked up, 3-year extension worth up to $36 million. I have to believe that's on top of the 1 year he had left on his deal. So congratulations, Julian Love. Was one of our better players on defense last year. Not that that means a ton. And yeah, I'm good with it. I'll be better with it if I see us make another move in tandem with this, but only time will tell. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. There's going to be plenty to talk about tomorrow morning when I make the training camp video. I know that there's some stuff going on with Abe Lucas that people aren't excited about. We will talk a little bit about that, but yeah, Julian Love, congratulations. You cashed in.